Welcome to episode 517 of the Man That Can Project podcast. I'm your host, Lachlan, Stuart, and this is actually going to be my last recorded episode in Australia.
Look out.
What an episode it's going to be too.
Look out.
Shaun, great to have you back on, mate.
Good to see you, brother. My pleasure.
I was actually looking because we did one last year, so about 12 months ago.
Yep.
And then prior to that, it was about 3.5 years, but we'd done a number beforehand. And I was thinking about, we've been catching up for coffees and you've been helping me out a bit.
And you helping me out.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
And I was like, what value can we hone in on? Because I always love having this topic and getting straight into it with people. And for me, it's like your no bullshit approach to things.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
For me, it's exactly what I needed. You always have a good stern word with me about certain things and cut the fluff. And at the time, I find it very uncomfortable to be faced with. However, what I really appreciate about the no bullshit approach is it just fast tracks success, because you're not sitting there trying to think about how you can deliver what I need to hear without offending me. You're just like, this is what it is. I assume that you trust that I'm not going to get offended by it. You just pick it up and go. Why do you think it's important to cut the fluff?
Mate, that last comment's really interesting, right? Because I still do get really concerned about offending people.
Really?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. But to me, the thing about it is it's more important to me to have some emotional courage and deliver what I think is the right thing for you. And it might not be. But to go, hey, this is what I think, this is why, and point it out to you in a manner that I think for two things. If you don't cut the fluff and you're full of shit, if you're just like, I don't want to upset anyone, well, you're going to be totally ineffective. I was just having a conversation with a friend of mine on the way over here. He runs his own business. He's an ex-2 Commando Special Forces guy. And I said, I want people to love me or hate me. I never want people to go, no, it's okay. Because I think then you're ineffective for everyone. If someone hates you, then you're ineffective for them. But if people love you, you're extremely effective for them.
How do you get comfortable with having people hate you? Because so many people fear not fitting in and fear being disliked.
53 years on the planet is a big part. Because
mate, you don't look a day over 25.
Mate, thanks, brother. I don't act a day over it. Because what are you, 32? Two. So I think at your age, it's a much bigger thing. And I think that's just because so much of what I do is based around evolutionary biology, right? Where essentially the stats are we're 98.8% the same DNA as chimpanzees. So we're slightly evolved monkeys. So when you're younger, you want to belong to your tribe, you want to know who you are, like that you're in a different phase of life to me. For me in my 50s, at your age, man, I was so worried about what people thought. At my age, I'm like, you know what? I've probably got 40 or 50 years left, 50 at best.
Yep.
And I go, so I'm just going to give less fucks now because I've been through enough things. I've wasted enough time trying to keep other people happy and realise that just wasn't the answer. And it isn't the answer for anyone.
I wish we could I feel like I am like an older person in a younger body. Like I think I don't do what a lot of people my age are doing. Even last night, Amy and I watching Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, like fucking whatever they went through. And I'm looking at Johnny Depp, and this is all I'm thinking why this reality TV is going on. Is I'm like, geez, Johnny Depp looks old. And then his sister takes the stand and she looks like well old. And I'm sitting there going, I remember watching him in Pirates of the Caribbean where he looked extremely young. Geez, life goes quick.
Oh, yeah.
And then I started thinking about how quick's life going? What am I doing right now that I won't actually give a shit about in 10 years' time? What am I doing right now or stressing over that doesn't matter? That's all I think about when I think about, or even just watching TV. I'm like, shit, that person's aged. It reminds me of our mortality.
Absolutely, mate. And I had a guy that I used to work in the cops with who was 59, and he fantastic human being, but never was a really big overweight dude. Died the other day. And I'm at that age now where I'm 53. A lot of my contemporaries from my policing career are in their 50s or late 50s and are starting to die. And I'm like, when did that happen? Because to me, I still feel like I'm 30, right? But the thing for me is the irony is I think at 32 you feel like you're running out of time. At 53, I'm like, I've got all the time in the world, particularly when you get to the point, this sounds pretty macabre and pretty weird to say this early in our chat, but I'm just so comfortable with death now in the sense of I go, it's coming for you, for me, for freaking everyone listening to this. And I honestly live my life, and as cliched as this sounds, my daughters, my partner, friends, or everybody that matters to me knows how much I love them. So if I walked out of here and had an aneurysm and died, I'm good. I don't fear that. So when you don't fear the end of it, then I'm like, how can I squeeze every drop out of the next 3 weeks or 30 years or 50 years?
Yep.
Like my goal's 110. So I go, I've got 57 years left. And people look at me and go, oh, I don't want to live that long. And I honestly look at them and I say to people, I go, well, if I was you, I'd want to be dead at fucking 80 because you're miserable. You know, like if you're living an epic life, I intend to be 80 years of age, still going to the gym, still training, still looking fit.
So what are those things that you do to prepare yourself if you were to live to 110?
For sure. Mate, there's 6 what I call life basics that I live my life by. Sleep, nutrition, training, meditation, journaling, mental rehab, podcasts, books, everything. The stuff you talk about, exactly the same. Then it's moving. It's a lot of it for me now is being very careful about who I spend my time with. I spend a huge percentage of my time with people who are a lot younger than me, because I've got a young guy who's 25 that is trying to get into my old canine unit at the police. Him and I train together. Another guy, that SF dude, he's in his mid-30s. Because I find most people my age, they're already giving up. Like most guys in their 50s are like, oh, it's over. I'm just a fat, useless sack of shit. I'm sitting on the couch eating Doritos and getting chips, like getting dust all over me, Dorito dust on me while I watch some shit on TV.
Johnny Depp and Amber Heard.
Yeah. and when I look at it, mate, I just think, and it's cliched, but whatever you believe is true is true. Your life happens for you or to you.
And the environment impacts you, because if you are around people who are saying, oh man, my back's aching, I'm hurting, you start noticing that within yourself.
Absolutely.
That's why it's very interesting that you say you started to hang out with younger people. I guess for the last decade, I've been hanging out with people who are older than me, who have what I want in certain areas, because I was very clear from 2014 that if I'm going to have my own business, I want to be able to be flexible, and if Amy and I have children, I want to be able to be a present dad, but one also who's also got it together emotionally and physically, so I can be the role model that I want to be. And as a result of that, it's like most people who were my age at that time weren't doing that, and they didn't want that just yet, which is okay.
Yeah.
So I go to the people who do want that, who do have that, which meant I had to build relationships with people who are older than me.
And mate, and it's for me, it's I'll go and talk to people who are 70, 75, so long as they're savages, in the sense of so long as they're doing shit. They don't have to be the David Goggins running marathons and stuff like that, but they have got to be people who are doing significant things in their lives, particularly around impacting other people. Like for me personally, I earn really good income in my business. I love it. The most exciting thing I've done in the last year is get a new dog. Like I've got a Belgian Malamute. It's like a...
So you were just down at the park before?
Yeah. So she's a German Shepherd, they say, but it's like crossing a German Shepherd with a crocodile and putting it on crack. Like she's insane. Her dad's an SAS combat assault dog, and her mum's produced 4 police dogs, and I get that as a pet because I go, that'd be fucking great fun. Now, anybody with a brain in their head doesn't do that. No. But I go, but I'm not like anybody. So I go to the park with the dog, it bites me, I'm having a ball because it's pushing my limits. I go to the gym, and my training at 53, I've dialed it back from where, like when we first met, because I'm like, well, I'm not going to smash myself 6 days a week at CrossFit. That's not going to give me longevity. So I'm, ice bar saunas, all that stuff that we talk about often. But I'm like, how can I be as fit and able and active and driven as I am now at 70? Because I go at 70, time's just going to drop away. There's going to be far less competition. And at 80, like at 70, I want to be the old dude, purely vanity and success driven, that takes his shirt off at the beach and people are like, holy shit, look at that jacked old dude. That motivates me 100%. Yep. And
that's where it comes back to getting clear on who you want to take, or whose opinions you want to listen to, and what feedback you want to take. If, for example, you're talking to another 7-year-old who's morbidly obese, doesn't have a healthy relationship to save himself, and they're trying to tell you how to live your life, it's like...
Absolutely.
You can tell me all you want, but your opinion doesn't carry any weight.
Well, you've done personal training for years, right? If you're a fat personal trainer, no one should listen to you.
No.
Wasted time.
Exactly. Because it's not only what they tell you to do, but it's the small things that you can start to understand how they actually live their life, the decisions and choices that they make, how they think about things, the perspective that they view life through. That's where the gold is. Because if we want to get a 6-pack ab, if we want to make $1 million, if we want passionate relationships like The Notebook, jump on fucking Google. It'll tell you step by step how to do it. But what's missing is the stuff that I just mentioned. What decision would this person...
Execution.
Execution, exactly. How they respond to things. And that's where the environment becomes so important, surrounding yourself with who you want to become.
Totally. Well, you look at... There's nobody doesn't know how to lose weight and be healthy. There's not a person on the planet, not a person in the Western world that has a mobile phone who doesn't know that you should... eat good food, train, etc.
Move more.
But exactly. But obesity's, one of the biggest challenges for us. So I look at it and think it's super simple. I just want to be around the people who exhibit the types of behaviours and the type of personality that I have. Even results, even these days, are less important to me. It's the attitudes and who the person is.
Yeah, who you become in the process.
Because you can apply that to whatever result. Like you're going to do your obstacle racing, right? I'm like, yeah, that's not my thing. But I go, that's epic. How good's that Lockie's going to do that? I get this psycho dog. You're like, I want no part of that. But yeah, that's cool. I can take some lessons out of that to go, yeah, I'll do shit that no one else does, whatever might be that thing.
Yep.
And I think it's really easy when you get at my age. This analogy that I came up with years ago. Oh, sorry, probably only a year ago. And I love analogies where I go, to work out who you should keep in your life and who you should let go, and that's a huge thing for people. I think that's one of the biggest challenges. It's like if you're the jetty, you're the dock, and all the boats that are tied to the dock is like the people that you have in your life. Mm-hmm. Undo all the ropes and let the ones drift who drift and let the ones stay who stay, however that works. Since I've done that, I've never been happier.
What about for those who hear that and think, what about if I'm putting effort into those relationships? So did you, when you untied it, were you still investing in those relationships?
100%.
Or, yeah.
Absolutely. Because it can't be, like I look at Rachel and I, for instance, right? We've been together over 10 years. We've got a very non-traditional relationship in the sense of we're super independent. Love it at death. She's amazing. Yep. She's about to leave for the States on Friday for 4 to 6 weeks. And in that 4 to 6 weeks, I'll be like, oh, she's amazing. I'm so proud of her. But I won't be, oh my God, I wish she was here because I'm really comfortable in myself.
Yep.
We're in a different phase of life. Like I'm in my 50s, she's like 40s. So it's a different phase of life to where you and Amy are, for instance.
Well,
you guys are pretty independent.
Yeah, we're very independent. One of the things that I love most about Amy is like how independent she is, because as much as I love when she makes, I guess when you have these moments where you're softer for each other and it's like you make each other feel valued and needed because you want that comfort and support. But then also when Amy's on the road doing her thing, she's just so independent. I love that because I'm like, fuck.
Yeah.
And it makes me want to be better because I'm like, well, she's that independent. She could drop me like a fly if I become a piece of shit. So it's like I need to make sure that I have a certain standard to uphold. Whereas a lot of people, as you said, sort of go, oh,
well, it makes you level up,
come
right?
Home,
like, I'm the same. I look at Rach and go, shit, mate, she's a savage. She's 47, fit as hell, like killing it in work, doing amazing things. And I look at her and go, I better keep bringing my A game or she'll get sick of me.
Yep.
And I go, and say she should, and vice versa.
Yep.
But the problem is, mate, I think so many people, particularly family members or partners, people they're really close to, we go, oh, well, I should spend time with X because they're my family or they're my whatever. And you go, well, if you wouldn't, like you and I as mates for probably 10 years or a good period of time. And that
would be fuck.
Yeah, and our friendship, goes in and out of how often we see each other, which is so totally cool. But you're like, that's because I love what you do and I love the sort of person you are. But the minute I was like, yeah, Lockie, if I was to say, and I doubt it would happen, but if I'm like, but if Lockie's off, Lockie's a bit off the reservation, doing this, doing that, whatever, then I'd be like, yeah, cool, I'm just not going to engage as much. Doesn't mean I cut those people off, but you actually just, when you start to see people, and you will see them, and I certainly do now more so than I used to. If somebody showed any interest in me on my life before, I would give them 100% immediately. Yep. And it's an insecurity and a lack of self-worth. Now I'm like, cool. Like I had a guy recently I met, probably 6 months ago, 12 months ago through someone else. I was helping him out with some stuff. A couple of things he said he was going to do for me, he didn't. I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, I'll just pull back a bit, see what happens. And he's just drifted. And I'm like, cool. So that was not a bad dude, just a guy who was in the friendship with me because he saw a benefit or whatever that might be. And I go, that's cool. I don't dislike him.
Sounds like me.
But nothing like you. He's nowhere near as good looking as you are, of course. But I'm not going to stack I don't need a lot of people. I want quality people.
Yep. Well, that's it. You're not dependent on people. And I think that happens a lot in relationships or even friendships. You become so dependent on them, their validation or them checking in on you that you forget that you can do that yourself.
Absolutely.
And the most important, it's that analogy around if the plane's going down, put on your oxygen mask first. Like it makes sense. It's like put your oxygen mask first. On first, what does that look like for you as an individual every day? What are the things that you're fueling yourself so that you can be the best version of yourself, which allows you to be a great husband or partner or employer, whatever role that you're playing, whatever it is. It's like, what do you need to do for you? And this is where I think as well, it's really important to establish those boundaries and also talk about the expectations in relationships and mateships in order to do that. Because I know a lot of friendships as well where people are clinging to you like, fuck, you're not even intimate with this person. Like you're not building a life together. You're friends, But you don't need to know their every mood or expect them to
100%.
check in with you daily. That's
Totally.
from how
It's
I view the
creepy.
world. Yeah, it's weird. But it's like, okay, well, what do you need to do to make sure that you feel comfortable? That's where the work needs to go. But a lot of people don't want to experience that.
Oh, mate, and people self-medicate with alcohol, drugs, porn, gambling, whatever, other people, friendships, whatever, because there's exactly right. People are afraid to do the work on themselves, or they don't know they can even.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know, some people don't even know they can do that work. And you look at, I'll give you my process on something, and you just having got married is really interesting on your take.
2 years soon.
Yeah. Wow, is it that long? Wow. I look at marriages, for instance, right? So at 32, how old's Amy?
32 as well.
Oh, cool.
Yep.
So what do you reckon the statistical likelihood is of you and her making 50 years married?
Like what I believe, or just generally?
Generally, yeah.
Generally.
How many marriages make 50 years?
I would say 37%.
6%.
6%.
6%.
Make 50 years of marriage. Does that include together, or is that from the moment?
Marriage, I believe.
Yeah,
I didn't look that deeply. 6%, right?
Okay.
So 94% of marriages don't make 50 years. Now, some people could die, blah, blah, blah. But I go, that's, I've looked at it a few times and gone, because it doesn't seem right.
So you wanted to take a risk that makes you fail.
Totally, right? And how do most people go into it? Oh, my God, you're amazing. We get on great. There's no real conversation about long term. Now, knowing you, I'm sure you guys had a very different approach. But I had a friend of mine got married in the last sort of 12 months, who you know. And I actually said to this person and their partner, their fiancé, like probably 2 years ago, I sat down with them, they're about your age, and I said, hey, listen, if I was you, you know what I would do? I would sit down and I would negotiate your divorce before you get married. And they were like, huh? And the guy sort of looked at me and was like, that makes sense. And the young woman, who's an awesome young woman, she was sort of like, you could see she was a bit offended by it. And she goes, I don't like that idea. I said, why? She goes, well, it takes all the romance out of it. I go, you know what else takes romance out of it? Divorce. and she's like, yeah. And I said, because if you can't sit down at the most loved up and happy you should be and have a conversation to go, right, if we split, what's money look like? What's kids look like? What do we do? Blah, 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 and work that out. Then, and if it was me, and I've had this chat with both my girls, who are 18 and 15, and I go, then you put that in a legal document and give it to a lawyer like a will. Then if you get divorced, that's the basis of where your negotiation and conversation starts. Because if it was you and I getting married and we had that conversation and we came down that there was just fundamental differences in what we wanted, then that's probably a good place to start going, well, should we be getting married? Now I think that's I've never heard anyone else say that. I think that's pretty left of centre. But I go, look at the stats of what happens. Most people are miserable. The biggest impact on us as a society is anxiety and depression. Marriages fail at a huge rate. I go, we've got to start doing shit fucking differently because everyone's miserable.
Well, you can't succeed in things you don't think about and make plans for. It's not possible.
Yeah.
Literally a tumbleweed rolling down a dirt road, hoping that you don't get run over by a car.
Great analogy. Yes, so true.
I think that's a great idea to have those conversations. One, it helps you get clear on what your expectations and your wants are, because if you can't even go into that conversation because you don't know what you want, well, then start there. What is it that you want from your life? And where does your life partner fit in, and what needs to happen in order to achieve that? The most simple response would come back to get clear on that, and then have that discussion with your partner and work out if there are compromises needing to happen, or if you need to part ways, or if it's going to just be exceptional.
And that's that old compromise on things, never yourself.
Yep.
Never compromise yourself. So Rachel and I, when we first met, like a long time now, over 10 years ago now, we had one of the first conversations we had in a romantic sense was like, she goes, do you want more kids? I said, no, absolutely not. And I said, do you want kids? She goes, no. I go, cool. So we're in a good space.
Yeah. Okay, so couples who avoid that conversation, because it's never really spoken about, at what point should you be having those conversations? For me now, and I guess this probably goes back to phases of life. You wouldn't at 21 be going, hey, darling, you want to have kids?
No.
Fuck, mate, I just want to go out and have some beers.
I just want to have some fun.
Yeah. But then, like, maybe as you get into your 30s, that's when if you're getting into a relationship at, say, 30 plus, it's like, that's probably a conversation you want to have earlier on. Would you agree?
100%.
And
as early as possible.
Yeah. And if you're on different pages, then
cut it.
Yeah.
It's savage, mate, but cut it.
People try to force it and hope that, hey, if I love you enough, and if this ends up being
I'll
awesome,
change him, or I'll change her, or
it's not going to happen.
Chance, mate, zero chance.
You're setting yourself up for heartache.
I was talking to my 15-year-old daughter recently, and she was like chatting to some guy, some young dude, and she's like, I just don't know what to do, Dad, blah, blah, blah. I go, babe, what's your gut tell you? She goes, no. I go, there's your answer. No. And she goes, but. I go, hun, you're 15. I go, what do you reckon the chances are you'll end up married with this dude and have kids? She goes, yeah, 0. I go, so relax, mate. You're having fun. It doesn't work, cut it.
Why do you feel we struggle with making decisions?
Fear. It's always fear. Fear of missing out, fear of the wrong thing, fear of losing something, fear of how I look, fear of being on my own is a huge one for people in relationships, I think. Like your audience, predominantly dudes. For you guys that are listening, I go, could you sit in a room for 30 minutes, no phone, no distraction, no anything, sit a metre from a wall and look at the wall? Yeah, how many people do you reckon you can do that?
I think a lot of people going, yeah, I could do that.
You could do it, I think.
Yeah, but I feel this is the thing. People think they're capable of so much more until they put them in self.
100%.
What's that Mike Tyson thing? It's easy to.
Yeah,
I can't remember that quote.
Yeah, like everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the face. Yeah,
it's that thing. If you try to do something like that, you'll get introduced to where you're really at.
Because if you sit, think of the last time you sat for 30 minutes and did nothing. Like, no, didn't have a view to look at, didn't have a distraction, didn't have anything. Where literally, if I was to go and sit and look at that wall, that white wall for 30 minutes, it would feel like 3 hours. And every demon and every negative thought and everything that I've, pushed down and tightened the lid on would start coming out.
Yep.
And that happens all the time, mate. And people avoid that. We avoid discomfort. So it's the fear of something, but often the fear of discomfort that has people not make decisions.
Discomfort is something that we can dive into, change a bit of a segue, but I think in today's society, I believe we're going soft. And when I say soft, I mean in our ability to deal with adversity and challenges, our ability to discuss or have difficult conversations without, lacking respect and looking for an outcome. I think as a result of that, more mental health issues are on the rise, divorce or relationship breakdowns or splitting of friendships. I think a lot of health issues are coming from that as well because we don't develop those skills. Like, I guess tying it back into this, where this conversation started, one thing I love about the no bullshit approach is it tells me exactly where I'm at, which is uncomfortable from time to time.
Sure.
And I used to get upset by it. I still, look, it's not nice, but rather than reacting and go, fuck you, Shaun, what do you know?
Sure.
I'd go, okay, I appreciate his opinion. I respect his feedback. What am I not seeing?
And you also, I would hope, know that I care about you and I've got your best intention. So I'm saying it from a place of wanting to help you, not wanting to criticise you.
Yep.
So you go, mate, I think you're absolutely right. We avoid discomfort like the plague. And there's a couple of things. And it's a very white 53-year-old middle-aged man thing to say. But I go, we are now reaping the results of the 8th place trophy.
The participation awards.
Participation awards. Mate, last Friday I flew to Mount Isa for 24 hours to do 2 presentations for cops. Did it for free, flew up there for free because it is an extremely challenging environment. And I'm up there talking to them about the stuff that's gone on, the crime. And I got a phone call from a guy this morning who's a guy from my old canine unit who's up there. Young dude, 29, great young guy. And he's like, oh, bro, we had this job today and he ran me through it. And it was absolutely horrific. I was like, oh, mate. And it's not an unusual experience. If that particular thing happened in freaking New Farm in Brisbane, the Today Show would be his Sunrise it would be the biggest thing in the world. It was a DV murder. I haven't even seen it mentioned on the news. So I'm up there talking to these young cops. Like half of the police station up there is in their first year. A lot of them are like only got 2 or 3 years service plus those people. So 50% are in their first year, and the other probably 50% have got 2 or 3 years service. All these young people, early 20s, mid-20s, just shoulder to shoulder doing some horrifically difficult work. And I'm up there going, this is hard yards. Like the houses aren't great where they live in. Like everything, it's not Port Douglas, right? It's tough. And I'm looking at these. I was talking to a 23-year-old young woman, police officer, and I was chatting to her and I said, you will find that this will be an immensely positive thing for you so long as you deal with the impact, because there's a huge amount of emotional impact from stress and
PTSD and stuff.
Yeah, man, really, really challenging stuff up there. I said, if you deal with that and empty the bucket of that, and I said, then this will make you such a better person because you actually know what it's like to do tough shit. You're seeing stuff that most people don't even know exists.
Yep.
So when you go out into the world and other things happen, you're going to be like, nah, big deal.
There's a good point there. I was having a chat with a mate, so you know this gentleman as well, but he's back out in his hometown, and he called me the other day. 2 guys, within 5 years, older and younger of him, committed suicide in the last 3 weeks, and he's called me. He's like asking about the men's group and how we started the circles and all of that sort of stuff. And one of the challenging things about that is like a lot of people needing to talk, needing to communicate, and everyone has issues.
For sure.
The thing about building or gaining experiences and seeing the way the world works in other areas is you recognize that maybe your problems aren't as big as 100%. You think. And I don't want to take away from anyone's anyone's problems at all by this, but I just remember when we used to run them here in Brisbane and then I'd run them in other areas, I was just like, man, I wish some of the people in this area could listen to this person's challenges, because 1, you're going to feel connected to people in another way. 2, you might be able to provide perspective or insight, which then empowers you, makes you feel better. But there's, and I'm always careful when I say someone's always got it worse, but I think that's one of the benefits and the beauties of meeting people in different situations, because it can really help put into perspective what we've got, and hopefully for a lot of people shift their perspective in a way where it's like, I'm grateful for the challenges that I do have.
Well, mate, you know my situation with my daughters, right? For the last 5 years, I haven't had much time with them. I have a huge difficulty with their mum. One of the things that popped in my head very early in that process, and I love my girls more than anything, is and it first came in when my oldest daughter was, or my youngest daughter was 7. And at the time it popped in my head, she's now 15. And I was like, there is a dad somewhere, probably in Brisbane, in a hospital holding his 7-year-old daughter's hand who's about to die from leukemia, who's not going to wake up tomorrow, and he would give his left nut to have my fucking problems. Now, that doesn't make it less impactful on me, but what it allows me to do is get out of that single-minded focus of being in it and sort of pull myself out of it and be able to look at it from a different angle and go...
Objectively, almost.
100%. I can look at it objectively, thanks, man, and go, you know what? This isn't the end of the world. I've got another 50 years with them. If I have a few years where I don't see them as much as I want, I'll be able to get there. But we get so caught up in our world. And I think particularly these days, because we're at the best time in human history, you know, there's more money around than ever, health, we are as evolutionary as a species. We've never been in a better place in the Western world particularly, but even globally. So I think that's a downside, because you look around and go, you know, Instagram, #blessed, all the bullshit where everybody pretends they're super happy, then your problems seem 10 times harder, because you're like, shit, Lockie's living the dream. My life sucks. So the disparity in that seems huge. That's part of it. The other part of it is, mate, I just don't think, like, we've nerfed the world. So as with kids don't grow up with significant challenge. And we're like, I want them to be a free spirit and just explore who they are. I'm like, no, I want them to sit down and do what they're fucking told, because I'm training them to be a good human, a good adult.
Yep.
And it's not generational, mate. A lot of people my age and my dad would say about my generation, go, I go, it's not generation, it's societal. Everybody who's allowed to be offended, and we encourage it, and nobody is supposed to take responsibility for their actions. It's always going to be someone else's fault. And my thing in my life, and I said it briefly before, I live by a few things, but one of them is life happens for me, not to me. So if a shit situation hits me, and they still do, I go, what can I learn out of this? What's the advantage? I was talking to a group of soldiers the other day, and I said that thing. And this guy at the back goes, oh yeah, but you know, what if you got a really tough thing in your life? I said, cool, what's your thing, man? And he goes, I'm got a TBI and I've got a significantly reduced life expectancy. I said, cool. I said, I'm going to say stuff to challenge you deliberately. I said, I'm not trying to be an arsehole, but just stick with me because I'm going to use an extreme example. He goes, yeah, cool. I go, how old are you? He goes, 45. I said, awesome. I said, let's say you only had 5 years to live. He goes, no, it's better than that. I go, cool. Let's say it's 5. I go, you don't have to worry about retirement. You don't have to worry about getting old. You don't have to worry about your health. You can just live, a life for the next 5 years, living the dream, and then die at 50 and be good. I go, there's a silver lining. He goes, holy shit, that's true. Now, that's an extreme way to think of it. If I got diagnosed with cancer and I had 6 months to live, I probably wouldn't be as upbeat about it. But that would be my intention. I go, you know what? That is what it is. If I get diagnosed with cancer, I'm going to be dead in 6 months. I'm not going to give a fuck about, you know, somebody who doesn't return my phone call or some other bullshit or some idiot in his mum's basement arguing on my social media post. You know, so And I think we just need to get a little bit more perspective for ourselves to go, you know what? Life's pretty fucking amazing, actually. And the problem I'm in now, and again, not detracting from people who commit suicide, it breaks my heart. I've been there, like that. We haven't touched on my background, but people can find that. I went through PTSD, depression, battled suicide out of my police career for years, so I know what that's like. But you don't want your life to end. You want the pain to stop. A good way to have pain to stop is get a different perspective on it. And that to me is so simple. But and I was 32. Ironically, at your age, I had a Glock on my hand, going to blow my head off. 53, I'm like, fuck, I've never been happier. Why is that? Because I do the work. That's the difference, right?
And it's interesting when you share that story as well. I had Kevin Hines on the podcast. I don't know if you ever listened to that. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yes.
Exact same story. Like he's obviously a mental health and suicide prevention activist. And he's like, the moment that my hands left the railing, I knew that I didn't want to die. I just wanted the pain to stop. Exactly what you said.
Overwhelmingly, the stats say that about people who survive suicide.
And it's, once again, and I've been not where I wanted to take my life, but I was at the point where I didn't care if I woke up or not. So I was still at this point of sadness. And
very similar thing.
Yeah, not very happy. And in a mind where I'm not emotionally charged or I'm not emotionally sad, it's like it's easy to say that.
Yeah. Totally.
I also understand the flip side where it's like you don't care because all you're worried 100%. About, and this is where we think about pain and pleasure, right? The two things that motivate the human to do things. And quite often we want the nice things. Someone walks past us on the beach and go, fuck, they're jacked. I want to hit the gym on Monday. I want that.
100%.
And then we realize how hard it is. We're like, it's too hard to get out of bed early. I don't want to lift that heavy weight. I don't want to exert myself. So next year.
And I would actually challenge on one thing. I don't think we are driven by pleasure. I think it's all pain aversion.
Oh, no. I didn't get to wrap around.
Sorry, man.
But yeah, the pain is what. The pleasure is what people think they want. But it's my psychologist, and once again, everyone it's their own. This is just what works for me. But my psychologist has said to me a number of times that I need to change my relationship with that because I use a lot of pain to motivate me. Still, it's everything that I do is out of the fear of not being good. And, we speak about that
100%, man.
But there's a difference between these fears and these pains and not doing anything about it and not using it to do something good or to take it on board and go, all right, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel strong enough. I don't feel worthy enough. Let's fucking work. That's where the place where I come from. I do want a lot of things, a lot of pleasures and stuff.
For sure.
Everything, the reason why I get up still at 4 o'clock, even when I don't have to, when I record, all the stuff that I do that's hard is coming out of a pace of trying to get away from pain. And that pain's going to keep coming with me because I choose to bring it.
And even if the pain is something simple like, I've done 2,750 podcast episodes, right, every day for the last freaking X amount of years. And I looked up today, Rachel was talking to a client of hers in the States.
That's insane, by the way.
Who's a keynote speaker. Yeah, thanks, man. And she goes, he looked up your podcast on this keynotes it's called.
Yep.
No, listener notes. And it's in the top 1.5% of podcasts in the world. I was like, what? And I looked, yours is in the top 2%. I looked it up. Maybe. I wasn't going to tell you if you beat me. Joking, obviously. But I looked it up before I came in so I could tell you. And I'm like, there's 3.17 million podcasts in the world.
Yep.
Yours and mine are in the top 2%. I'm like, holy shit. So
normally I'm a 1%er in life, so
exactly.
That makes me angry.
But so you look at it and go, so we're in the top 50,000 podcasts or something roughly, or something like that number. And I go, that's still a shitload, right? So I'm probably not going to consider myself Joe Rogan just yet, but
soon.
I look at that and go, like, that's been, whatever it is, 7 years or 6 years of me doing a podcast every freaking day. Now, that's just part of who I am now. And every now and again I'll go, nah, I'm going to ditch it. I do it in the car. It's easy. It takes no time for me to do. I go, I think I'm wasting my time. People probably think it's shit. Fuck, there's 2,700. They can get what they need, blah, blah, blah. And then this week I've had 2 conversations with people who've said, hey, fuck, man, I was going to... one guy's in a really bad place, not a cop, but similar sort of job. And he goes, man, I went through some really tough stuff last year. He'd see me speak and he goes, I'll listen to your podcast, and fuck, it dragged me out. Someone else, a friend of a friend, their friend, they put him onto the podcast. So it's 3 people removed from me. I've never even met this person.
Yep.
And they gave it to them 2 months ago, and then the third removed came back to the second removed, and they said, hey, just letting you know I was going to kill myself, and then you gave me that podcast and I didn't. And I'm like, holy shit, well, the pain of me doing 10 minutes a day for 2,700 episodes, I better keep fucking doing it. Because if one person, and that sounds super melodramatic, but I go, if that person actually didn't kill themselves because they listened to what I said on my podcast, then it's worth 2,700 fucking episodes. That's painful. You know, the pain for me of whenever I present to people, I'll say, you know, the reason that I'm fit and healthy and I train hard is because if I was a fat sack of shit with donut dust on my shirt, you wouldn't listen to me. It's the pain of me being less effective with people that drives me to be better.
Yeah.
You know, it's vanity. But it's not the vanity of, I want to look good. It's a vanity of not wanting to look like a sack of shit.
Yep.
You know, that's where I think pain is a really good motivator, and we avoid it, and we, even if you look at it like pharmaceutically, I heard Joe Rogan talking to someone the other day, and he was saying, he goes, it's weird, you know, nobody wants pain anymore. The minute we get pain in a Western medicine society, we're like, oh, here you go.
Here's a tablet.
Here's a pill. Well, I go, what if you just embraced it? You know, what if you embraced the pain and that built some resilience and it built some, you know, if you don't train to the point where you're in pain in the gym, then you don't get, your muscle doesn't tear and it doesn't grow, you know, whatever the thing is.
The seeking pain thing, I'm a big advocate of, and like David Goggins 100%. Does it to the extreme. There's many ways you can do it, obviously physically, or you can do it in mentally as well, or, you know, having the tough conversation can be fucking painful. What's the thing that you're putting off that you know you should be doing that you're not? And I think the beautiful thing about doing it in a way that you're in control. So, for example, last year I did the 30 marathons in 30 days, or we did the 12-hour walk, things that were uncomfortable. I had many moments where you want to quit, but I controlled the variables. I could quit if I wanted to.
Yeah.
Whereas what it prepped me, it taught me a lot about myself, my mind, preparation, having a good team around you, all the things we all talk about in order to be successful and have a great life. But what it has now given me is that insight for if shit happens, if adversity comes my way and it's out of my control, I've been in a similar situation before, so now I will go if I'm in adversity, right, who's my support network?
Yeah.
What is my mind going to try and do to check me out here? How can I best prep for this? Like, it's going back to that same framework, and a lot of people get anxious and overwhelmed and they melt down in these situations because they aren't training for it. And I think it's so fucking important because there's one thing, well, there's a couple of things that are certain in life, but adversities come in your way, especially if you want to live a great life, because you're going to have to grow. And part of growth is
pain.
Yep.
And that comes back to that evolutionary biology, right? Where I come back to, if you haven't prepared for pain, then your monkey brain, which is it's something like chimpanzees are 500% more violent than humans. So that part of your brain's 500% more violent.
Have you watched that Chimp Empire?
Yeah, epic.
It's
how
so
good. Like, it's us. You watch it, you go, it's just us, mate, right? I watch that and I go, there is a fucking monkey in my brain that's 500% more violent than me, my rational brain, faster, stronger. So I have got to be on my ball, like on the game and on the ball, if I'm going to keep that under control. Talk about that pup, my Belgian Malinois, Blaze, her name is. I got a female one because the breeder said to me, if I give you a male one, like no one, I got it because I know the duty, would only give it to people who've got previous, you know, military or police experience. He goes, I don't want to give you a male dog because it will try to kill you and no one else will be able to handle it or touch it. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't probably make a lot of sense for my pet dog, right? So because I'm going to use her for keynotes and workshops and stuff for exactly this point, where I'll have her so epically trained.
I'm glad you didn't bring her here.
She's in the car. She's in the car. No, she's sweet.
Okay,
she's good.
Cool.
I'm giving her some adversity. But this part, she's so good. She's only 11 months old, but she's going to be this amazing dog, already is. But if I didn't train her, she would be a nightmare. I had her out in the backyard for like 45 minutes while I was sitting on the back deck doing work, and she pulled a branch off the tree, chewed it up, tried to, like, she's a savage. She'll destroy everything. That part of your brain, that fear-driven monkey mind part of your brain is exactly the fucking same. If you don't train it, it is going to cause mayhem and destruction in your life. Alcohol, drugs, all the stuff we've talked about before, anxiety, fear, self-doubt, all the stuff that will push that monkey to the point to go, I'm in so much pain that I need this to end, and suicide is the answer, or whatever is the answer. And I honestly go, like meditation, sleep, training, all the stuff we talk about, it's simply the stuff that helps you train that monkey so you can put it in the cage when you're not using it. Like, she's in the back of I've got a twin cab Amarok ute, and I've put a full cage system in the back like a dog squad van, like a moron, because I take her with me everywhere. Now, if I was like, oh, Lockie, I'll just let her run around the house while we're doing this podcast, she would have torn the lounge up, killed your cat, and be, jumped out of the first floor window by now. And that part of your brain is exactly the same. That monkey is a savage and it's violent. So it's going to attack you a lot harder than that positive voice. And you go, oh, no, I'm a good person. And the monkey's like, fuck you. No, you're not. And that's you and I both have control of that because we work really hard at that. but most people don't.
It's a good example of that, that's for sure. It's always work. I want to go back to the ripple effect you mentioned as a result of doing the 2,700 episodes.
Sure.
A friend of a friend of a friend passed it on.
Yeah.
It's like, that's what I think is so incredible to think about where you may be in your life right now. We're always trying to one-up the generation before us, and I think we get to learn from their experiences.
It's called evolution, bro. Yep.
Called evolution. And I always think about, okay, well, what ripple effect am I going to have? Obviously, the dropping the pebble in the ocean, that first ripple is my immediate circle, the people that I spend time with. The waves of the ripple are people who listen to the podcast or who share the podcast.
Would you say this is 500 and something? What?
517.
Like, amazing, mate.
A lot of episodes.
Epic.
Yeah, trying to catch you. But it's now a resource that, because I've upskilled myself, I get to interview people like yourself and other people who are doing great things or have insights and perspectives. You can pass that on as a tool. The person who's receiving it now gets to listen to it, and hopefully it has that, or it flicks a light bulb for them, or the switch, and they go, oh wow, that's the one thing I needed to hear, that I now am ready to take action and to do something different. And I encourage anyone who's listening to think about, we're all leaving a ripple. Is it a positive one or is it a negative one?
Awesome.
Lockie up until 24 wasn't leaving the best ripple. Post 24, leaving an epic ripple. And I'm still very mindful of what that's going to continue to look like as I get older. Because how many people do you see who crush it for a couple of years and come undone?
Oh, yeah.
We see most athletes, actors, celebrities, all that sort of stuff, because they don't work to deal with the pressure of expectation of self, the pressure of expectation of others. And the more successful you become, and I believe a lot of people who are listening to this are listening because they want to be better.
Yep.
So the more successful you become, regardless of what that is comparatively compared to you or I or anyone else, from where you've been, there's going to be more pressures. And you're always going to think you're going to have to chase something that, as we established at the beginning, doesn't really matter.
And there's a great, I'm the king of stats, and 100% of them I've made up. So you go, like, there's some sort of stat around lottery winners that they go within 2 years, 87% of lottery winners are bankrupt or in a worse position than they were before they won. And I heard one the other day, someone else told me that 36% of lottery winners suicide. So I haven't checked that. So full disclosure, I don't know if that's true. A friend of mine told me that. He goes, 100% it is. So you go, if 87% of people end up in a worse financial position when they thought the money would be the answer, and then 36% of people who win multiple millions of dollars suicide, why is that? And I go, my backyard bro science hypothesis is because that magnifies the insecurities and dramas and lack of self-worth and whatever they have. Because when you got $10 million, if you got $1,000, you can fuck up a little bit. You got 10 million, you can make a massive fuck up.
Yeah. I was actually talking about, I did a presentation for Loan Market before, and I was talking about that exact same thing. So my contract, when I played overseas, right, you get paid, you're living overseas as a 21-year-old bloke, you're like, yeah, this is the duck's nuts. Like, I'm absolutely killing it. And I always thought that achieving that one thing would solve every issue in my life, meaning my relationships would be world-class, people would want to be me, finances would be sorted. But what I've since learned, and I wish I knew this back then, was relationships, there's many skill sets, right? Negotiation, conflict resolution, communication, da-da-da-da-da. Same with money, right? You can earn a lot of money, but you can also spend a lot. So how do you manage your money? What do you do? You know, all of that sort of stuff. And what I wish I knew back then was, okay, look, yeah, you're succeeding here, but you also need to be learning to succeed in these other areas, because as a whole, that's what's going to give you the life that you want, not just the thing that you think it is. And people who are listening to this right now are chasing that in their careers. They might be chasing it by being a yes man and trying to be a people pleaser in their relationships. And it's like, dude, you suck everywhere.
Well, mate, it's a classic. I call it the once I get that, I'll be happy.
Yep.
And I've had 7 million of those. Yep. I remember vividly, one of the things I wanted a number of years ago now, when I was in my corporate career, I go, once I get a Range Rover Sport, I'll be happy. And I'm like, I'm not a fucking Range Rover Sport guy. Like, who are you kidding? Like, that's just not who I am.
You're a Dodge Ram kind of guy.
100%. I have a small enough penis to get a Dodge Ram. So, but when you go, so for me, look, I've got a 5-year-old Amarok, twin cab Amarok truck that I bought recently, and I'm like, I love this car. Like, and I could have bought a brand new one. I'm like, cars, couldn't give a shit. Clothes, couldn't give a shit. Houses, as long as, like, it's like we live in a really nice house, but it's not, you know, I'm not like, hey, I've got this great house, come and see it. Like, hardly anyone comes there. It is honestly, and as cliched as it sounds, particularly for guys your age or younger, like 20s, 30s, but there's plenty my age still chasing the dragon.
Yeah.
I'm like, nothing external makes you happy. And I honestly believe that, not partners, not whatever. Because if you don't love the person you are, then all that thing ends up being is something to chase to distract yourself, and then you get it, and then you got to chase something else. Then it's a new thing. So, and that is obviously a massive challenge. But, you know, fuck, at the end of the day, you got to be happy in you or everything falls apart.
Yep.
Right? That's simple.
Very, very simple. Shaun O'Gorman, everyone, where can people find you? You've got 2,700 podcast episodes. You've got the website. Link us up.
The Strong Life Project. If you Google that, you'll find me.
If you're looking YouTube as well, you can look at his shirt. It's all spelt there.
Yeah,
Mate,
it's all spelt there.
Thank you for being my last podcast in Australia for a while. It's been an absolute pleasure. We've covered some hard-hitting convos. And if any of the stuff, obviously we spoke about suicide, got people, make sure you reach out to professionals. To
go to Lifeline, go to whoever.
Yep.
If anyone wants to talk to me and wants my help, go to Insta to the Strong Life Project, shoot me an Insta message, happy to chat.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And remember, like, share, subscribe, do all the fun stuff.
100%.
Hit follow so you never miss an episode. Thank you for listening in.
Thanks, mate.